Once again, a repeat offender coming to the stage, the moderator, the man with the mustache, the muscle from Mississippi. It is Mr. Tatum Turnup. How you doing, sir? Very good. Next up, Dominic. I'm going to say this differently. Dominic, I'm going to say Wasna Washkikish. Appreciate you, brother. I'm sorry I got you out of order. Mr. Matt Weinberg, come on stage, buddy. And finally, man with the fine flow, Rami Al-Sridi. Thank you for being here. Take it away, gang. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming. Good afternoon. We are in the final home stretch of the conference. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, depending on how it's been for you. I've had a great time so far, and I'm excited to talk about mining services. Just to get things started, I'll go down the line. We'll do little introductions. I'm Tatum Cave. With Compass Mining, and I'm moderating this discussion. Let's go down the line. Just tell me who you are and what you do, and yeah.
Hi guys, Dominik Bansovic is the way to pronounce it. I'm with HashLab/E2C Partners. We're a hosting provider in like 4 countries, looking into the US now, but we are normally in the north of Europe and in Africa. Business development guy.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt Weinberg. I built and operate a solo mining pool called Atlas Pool. I'm relatively new into the space, but I spent my career working on large-scale internet infrastructure, and what I wanted to do was apply my knowledge to building a pool, so that's what I did.
Rami Al-Sridi, I'm founder and CEO of Mining Grid. We do community mining ecosystem, and we do offer cloud mining for retail clients.
So, we got a lot to cover here. Mining has historically gotten to a point where one man can't do it all himself, it seems. They're hot, they're loud, they require special power that most people don't have, so we look for services for hosting and stuff like that. So we've seen the rise and fall of several hosting companies and mining services, from hosting for plebs to infrastructure build-outs, but there's a lot of nuance with all of those. What are some, if someone were to come to you today and say, I want to start mining or switch providers, what's like one thing that they need to, you want them to look for that's like the main like nail in the coffin for a lot of people that may miss it? Go ahead and start with that.
In my opinion, the main thing to look at, even more importantly than electricity rate, which everyone is like mainly focused on, is the uptime. Just because you can get the cheapest rate in the world, but if your machines run at 50% of the time, you normally don't have time to actually get the ROI on your investment. So there might be countries that sound great and they look great on paper, but when you actually look into it and see how long your miners run, it might not be as profitable as you might think. So I think electricity rate, of course, everyone knows that, but the uptime is next to the same level for me at least.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Everyone's immediately, what's my power rate? And there's a lot more under that I think you need to look for. We'll dive deeper into that in a little bit. Matt, I'm curious about what you have to say, because you run a pool, and he mentioned uptime. You have, I didn't realize that uptime of solo mining pools was, like, I didn't realize that there was downtime, really. So can you explain a little bit on the uptime and downtime of things, especially like on the pool side? Like, what does that mean for a miner?
Yeah, so if you're mining, you want your pool to be always available. Uptime matters, and you also want low latency, because the higher the latency, the more rejected shares your miners will have, and rejected shares are wasted work. So when I first went down this journey, I bought my first solo miner. I saw the pools that were out there, and I said to myself, I think I might be able to do something differently and better. So I deployed the pool globally, so that any miner, no matter where you are in the world, can reach the pool very quickly with low latency and 100% availability, which is really what matters. There's no point in mining if you can't reliably rely on your pool.
I'm curious, do you have anything else to add on that as far as like what to look for, maybe even red flags? I want to go down the line with red flags as well.
Yeah, definitely, when you come new to the mining, you want to start your journey. So definitely you need to look at different things from your operator. people, when they come, they don't look at the long term. So as my colleague said, the electricity rate really important. What is the hosting? But there are a lot of things also behind it. Because even if you fix that rate for 1 year and lock it for long-term, short-term contract, and that unpredictable for following years, then you can lose your investment. Also, the track record of the mining operator is really important. I think we will speak about it in details. But I advise everyone, to start before starting big mining. You need to try it. You need to try your operator, and you need to experience. You need to ask about historical records as well from the operator. The more they are in the market, the more they are secure. Then you need to ask about many other risks. What is the exit clauses? If I want to stop mining, can I stop mining or not? What is the risk of changing the prices? What is the uptime? And many other things, related to electricity connection, redundant system or not? Is it actually a data center or not? So there are many things, and very hard for someone to come and really understand the full cycle. So if you are accredited investor and you want to do bulk deals, maybe you can't get that details. But reality on the market, when people they want to enter mining, they cannot get all these details, because that mining farms interested in bulk deals, not in small retail clients. So recommendations start small. Try to do your due diligence about the company and the history, and then definitely select the best provider based on uptime, based on electricity cost, and the outcome, and also the pool plays another part, because also you need to know which hardware you want to use, which operator you want to use, then which pool better for you to connect, then you can reach the maximum outcome from that experience.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of factors that have to line up. It's a lot of trial and error. That's just kind of the nature of the industry. I want to go into some red flags, because there's often something that you see that's like, oh wow, I can't believe that they're offering it this at like 1 cent a kilowatt hour or something. That was exaggerated. I hope no one's offering 1 cent a kilowatt hour. But what are some red flags that you've seen in other operators, other mining services, that maybe you, like, for one, what should we look for, and two, what's the reality of that?
I think a good example is this hosting rate. Like whenever companies have a 6.5 rate, 6 rate, 6.5 rate, and then one has a 5.5 kilowatt hour rate, sometimes they have a 3-month deposit, or they make you pay a year in advance for the electricity, or they have a $400 handling fee per unit. So there's certain companies that are really good at marketing and getting you into the door, but like looking at these hidden fees, so to say, is actually more important than most people think. We try to be no hidden fees, so all you have is machine price, and that's it, and maybe shipping cost if it's a new machine. Others are looking cheaper, even though they might be not. It's one way to do it. Some people get into their door first because it looks cheaper, but looking at the deposit, prepayment structure, and these kind of things is actually more important than most people think.
Raymond, I'm curious on your side, would you say the same thing as far as like the hosting rate is a big one that people obviously are attracted to, because that's their monthly cost. Would you resonate with that, saying those hidden fees are something that is common that people misunderstand up front?
Yeah, I will copy that. If you look at the wider picture, not only in US. So there is, when you fix the rates, normally you fix it in local currencies, in many countries, and when you convert it to dollar, then the exchange rate, also impact the hosting price. That's a major factor of risk. When people select where they want to mine. We saw also there is another major risk, that the security of these farms and the country's regulation changes. And if you want to mine for 1 year or 2 years, maybe that risk is low. But if you are capitalizing your investment in mining the devices and you want to run it for 4 to 5 years, then the regulation change, or the government change, or they shut down location, or they change the power plant's supply ratio to these farms, it becomes a major issue. And unfortunately, many retail clients, they face this risk, because once they enter, they cannot get a visibility on which country I need to host my devices, then which farm, as second. And as we said, higher price at the beginning for hosting is better than unpredictable price. Because unpredictable price of year 2 with 20% plus, then it waives all the mining outcomes you did in year 1. So I see it, one of the major risks, to the race of electricity, the uptime and contracts with power plants. This is another major thing people need to consider.
Yeah, the geographic part of that is also really big because every country has different regulations and different relationships with Bitcoin miners and large infrastructure like that. And it gets shaky whenever there's no okay, you may be getting a ridiculously cheap power rate, but also what's going to happen with the geopolitical sphere, in the course of 2 to 3 years. And Matt, deploying your pool globally, I'm curious how you've with the redundancy that you have set up, is that something that you looked into?
Definitely, but I want to get back to your red flag question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so when I first built the pool, one of the things I wanted to prove out was that if someone mines to the pool that I built, that they're going to get paid the way I advertise that's going to work. So I built some tooling to verify the block templates that any pool hands out, not just the pool that I built, but any pool. And you can examine the block template, you can see what the payout structure is. And that way I could prove that I was paying people the way I said I would. When I tested some other pools, I discovered that they didn't necessarily do that. There were some pools out there that didn't pay out the way they had been advertised, and even worse yet, there were a few solo mining pools that literally would take your hash rate, proxy it back to another pool for their own profit, and you would never ever have a chance of mining a block. And most people just don't realize it until they examine the block templates. So with regard to red flags, I published some work, I did some original work, and I published it out there, and it was kind of like a building trust with people moment, because when I did this, people realized that not only could you trust the pool that I built, but you can trust the tooling, and it opened people's eyes about things that they should look for when they're looking at other pools as well. And I'm happy to answer the latency question too, but does that answer your question about red flags?
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of availability, yeah, so most pools out there, many pools, at least especially these solo pools, usually deploy a server at one location in the world, or maybe they deploy it at 2 or 3 locations in the world, and you have to manually set up your miner to point to that particular server. So if I'm in the United States, I'll point to the server in the US. If I'm in Europe, I'll point to the server in Europe. The problem with that is that if there's ever an outage, then you have to have at least a fallback set up in your miner to go to a secondary pool. But there are outages out there. And again, remember the story about latency. The less latency, the faster your miner gets to the pool, the less rejected shares you have, which is wasted work. So to answer your question, what I did is I employed a technology called Anycast. It's a networking protocol that allows anybody, no matter where you are in the world, to connect to the pool as fast as possible. So someone who's in South Africa will connect to an endpoint that I have deployed in South Africa. If they're in Brazil, they'll go to Brazil, and so forth and so on. I don't have to manually set up my miner to go to just the US server or the European server. You just point to one location, and no matter where you are, you always get routed to the right place. So that's something that I worked really hard on and proud about with the pool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I do want to kind of keep focusing on latency brings up my next question. There's actually stuff on the infrastructure side that matter when you're hosting a miner. The rigidity of your containers and how everything's set up as far as the physicality of it. But as a person who's looking for a service who may not be front lines in the containers and stuff like that, how do you as a company try to convey all of that infrastructure information that matters when picking a service? How do you portray that to a customer, or how should customers look at that and try to figure out the actual nitty-gritty details of the infrastructure?
To be honest, I don't think mining customers really give a shit what container you use. They want the miner to run, they want their stats to be there. So I think the topic is key things to look for in a mining service. Electricity rate, yes. Geography, yes. But it's a lot about trust. You will most likely never see your miners. You will not fly to Ethiopia. You will not fly to Finland and see the container. At the end of the day, you trust us and if you meet us at the conference, that's fine. Most clients never meet the teams. You have a couple Google meetings, if you can, and that's what our company, or in this case, Yaram, sitting front row, is doing quite well. He's writing research papers and actually writing about the topics and trying to have some extra information to read at. That is one way to do it. But at the end of the day, what the container and what the infrastructure is like, they don't really care often. The only thing that we do quite well is we have in Finland, we have a heat reuse site. So for us, it's easier to explain why it's useful. We have water cooling the ship, the water gets hot, and we sell that to the government and they heat cities. So we have 100,000 people in Finland that shower, that cook with our heated water, and that is easy to convey. But the infrastructure and the pipes and all of that, I don't think that's important.
The transformers that y'all are using. There's always that one guy. But that is a big thing about it, is trust. And of course, the ethos of don't trust, verify. There are levels to that in Bitcoin, especially in Bitcoin mining, because you're paying someone for a service of hosting a miner. How do you build that trust with your customers and establish? I mean, obviously, track record goes a long way, but with someone, especially a new company, because we're in a very young industry, how do you bring that trust up to a point where it's I'm ready to host with you because I know what you're doing? Maybe you want to take that?
I will take it from our angle, because we are an aggregator layer and we work with different mining farms and operators, so we are not operators ourselves. So what I experienced from being dealing with multiple operators across US and globe, the trust comes with the supplier from multiple aspects. Definitely historical data, gives the way they monitor their hash rate, the way they charge for consuming electricity, and the efficiency overall, the ultimate efficiency goals, compared to the actual efficiency of the fleet. So this data, when you run it for some time, historical data, if they give it to you, it gives you indication that they can, when they say 95% or 98% uptime, then the efficiency comes 80%, then you understand they cannot meet that efficiency later on. But we don't really, because we are not expertise on designing the infrastructure, but we rely on suppliers to do that structure for us. The other thing, the repairs, because in our industry it's not really mature like the data centers. It's been there for a while. So the manufacturers they have a schedule of release. They have, let's say, 99% of the stock they ship to you is working, but in the mining is not the same. Or maybe the shipping conditions also differs, and the insurance of assets also is different from normal data center to mining. So good operator always knows how to manage this, knows how to get replacement time, if there is repairs required, the time to submit the repair request, diagnose the repairs, then what is their technicians on site, what is their repair time, replacement time, and all of this comes as major factor. What I saw also hidden on that domain is repair costs. So the repair costs for the same item, for the same default, might vary 40-50% from operator to operator. Repair time, sometimes in days, and some other operators in weeks. So from our aspect as a client, not as an operator, we really trust majority of big ones, big operators, because they have flexibility to move between their fleets. They have bigger repair centers and more technicians on site. The small ones still they are good, but they are evolving. So they are trying to be better. But as we said, the industry is not mature yet. So they don't have very high standards for monitoring yet or repair yet. So it runs more like the server. If you are doing normal data center or AI data center, you pay 70 or 100K. For miner, you pay much less. So maybe the repair is not part of the strategy. Just get it out, get another miner and do it. So we saw this mentality across a lot of mining farms, and you don't have really tracking with 100% visibility to the end user. So we are trying to tell end user, there are very good software for monitoring, very good software for tracking. So try whenever you want to do a mining directly look for this aspect. It will help you also to understand what is the performance of your devices, are they online or not, what is your after service goals, after sale goals, to maintain this with the phone.
Yeah, and you heard him. He mentioned also that the industry is not mature, and like that's something that you always have to remember when you see something that's a little off or something like that. Like there is no industry standard. We're creating the industry standard as we speak. So it's very, there's a lot of trial and error going on in this industry, and it's teaching us. Curious if you have any more to add on your side of things of like building that trust with clients and making sure that they're secure, they feel secure with you.
What I always like to tell clients is Bitcoin mining is not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? Like you're not gonna triple your money, or in rare cases you might, but Bitcoin mining is a long-term thing where your goal is to have more sats in 4 years than you could buy today. And this is only possible with a long-term project that will take time and that will run stably. If someone promises you to double your money within 1 or 2 years, that is
Please
most
run and do not talk to them anymore.
Exactly. Like to be honest, I also think most companies are happy to give their opinions. Like if you know a miner and you want to work with them, ask another company about them. Like it's not a normal thing to badmouth people in our industry. Like we don't do that, but we will definitely say something positive about the people we know if you ask us about them. So I think that trusting is. People are honest. Most people are honest. That's why if you ask enough and you do enough research, you should be able to find a reliable partner that at least will communicate problems with you if they have any.
Do you have something, Matt?
Yeah, sure. So I talked a little bit about building trust about the payout scheme, but another value proposition of the pool that I built was really low latency. That's going to be faster than most pools out there, if not all. But don't trust me, verify yourself. So I ended up building some tooling that anybody can run. It's open sourced from their own home network, and they can test the latency of the pool that I built against any other pool they want. And it doesn't have to be a solo pool, it can be any pool. So that you can see both the ping time and the Stratum Connect time. Also, you can see how long it takes to negotiate a TLS connection if the pool supports TLS. Some pools don't. That TLS is an encryption protocol. If you do IPv4 or IPv6 connectivity, you can do the testing that way as well. So the whole point is, one way I've tried to build trust with people who use the pool is to provide tooling to allow them to verify that when I say it's really fast, they can see for themselves that it's really fast.
Yeah, it's a big thing. You can say don't trust, verify all day, but it's like if you're not helping someone learn how to verify, then they just have to fall back on that trust. But we're getting close to time. I want to just go down the line and as a final thought, just what would you say to someone who is interested in mining but hasn't taken that leap? They've been in the space maybe a couple of years and they just see the machines getting more intense and more power hungry. What would you say to that person who has that itch but doesn't know where to start? What's the best tip of advice for them?
I think mining has 3 main parts why it makes sense. Some people like one part more than the other, but it's KYC free Bitcoin if you use the right pool. It is a leverage bet on Bitcoin, and it's emotionless. Like I have my mining bill and I mine every 10 minutes without thinking, oh, maybe the price will go up or down tomorrow, because it doesn't matter. Like all my
revenues in Bitcoin.
Exactly. I always also tell people, if you start mining, be sure to be able to pay the bill in fiat. At prices like this, you don't want to pay your bill in Bitcoin, just because you will lose so much of the ROI that if you have 1 Bitcoin and you spend it all and then you want to pay the bill in the Bitcoin you've mined, you will most likely not come out with more sats than if you would have just bought. If you have a business or if you have a salary that you can pay the bill in fiat, that's the one way to do it. Otherwise, I don't think it makes sense to mine at all. At that point, just buy spot and you'll be good. If you are interested in it, it's also like having some skin in the game. It's nice to have a miner. I don't know if people here solo mine. Of course, it's a little bit of a gamble. We had in our location, we had one guy that in 2 weeks found 2 blocks. But he was, of course, in a mining pool. But like, it's a gamble. It's cool, but it's not risk-free. So be careful and don't think that you'll get rich doing it.
Yeah. It's definitely not. The biggest thing is it's not a get rich quick scheme. bet?
Yeah, I would say if you haven't dabbled in mining, get yourself a small home solo bit miner. They have them here. You can buy one right now. You can order them online. But the point is it's a great way to learn more about Bitcoin, the Bitcoin protocol, how mining itself works. It's just a great way to learn about the protocol and how it all, and you can contribute to it as well. Just by even buying one little device, you're playing a very small role in helping the Bitcoin network work. So take a look, try it out, and if you do solo mining, consider the pool I built, Atlas Pool.
Just be warned, it is a gateway drug. I got my first miner, it was an S7, just to see how it works, and now look at me. It's all gone downhill from there. No, I love it. But Remy, any last words?
I would say first, it's very important to simplify it for people, because the strength of Bitcoin network is not the value of Bitcoin, it's not the exchanges, it's not tradable. The value of Bitcoin comes with being decentralized. People send it from a person to person. So we embrace always solo mining. We embrace also the decentralization and avoid concentration of mining, across same location, same country, or same operator. So that's how the Bitcoin is built. So simplifying the entry is important, because mining with farm, they are still right partner, they are still right technology, which simplify this for people, and gives accessibility without really having bad experience. We highlight in this panel is the risks, on what you need to avoid, but what you need to start. Because if you believe that Bitcoin is the future of decentralization and you want to do peer-to-peer transactions, why you need to rely on a business or mining farm or just to process your transaction and expect that you can own a small portion of power and start that journey. And so from my point of view, I think Bitcoin mining is a must for every person in the world, and we are still below 1% of people understand what is mining. And the more we see solution and companies try to simplify and bridge that gap without knowing the infrastructure layer complexity, without going also to the how I configure my pool, but they need to get all-in-one solution to get that accessibility and unlock that. There is a fairness index for Bitcoin mining. If you hold 1 Bitcoin and you have zero contribution to mining, then you are relying on others to process that transaction. And that mentality should change, because if we all believe in Bitcoin, we need to believe in Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin miners is not only an industrial product that everyone need to know the dynamic how it works, but they need to know that if I do mining, through different ways, either through owning devices, renting it, or solo miners, still, I'm contributing to the bigger picture of Bitcoin.
Very well said. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Give it up for our panelists. They've done amazing. Find any of them after around. I promise you, if you find someone who's excited to talk about Bitcoin, it's very easy to talk about Bitcoin with someone who wants to talk about Bitcoin mining. So thank y'all so much for coming, and I will turn it back over to our stage host.
Let's keep it going. Absolutely incredible job.